Hello and welcome back to the AA NBA podcast. I'm your host, Aiden Hammond.
And I'm Aditya.
And we just had the best trade deadline in recent memory. Definitely better than last year's. I would say better than 2019. It's so many like league-changing moves were made. Really,
what
like
was
one.
Last
but
year's trade deadline, I thought it was pretty solid.
It was like Drummond and Marcus Morris to the Clippers. Those are the two moves, but nothing like top 5 positional players moving teams like we had this year.
Mm-hmm.
But let's go through the power rankings. I just want to go through this pretty quickly because I'm so excited to talk about the trade deadline, and I think we should do that last, right?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so you want to go first? You want me to go first?
I can go first on this one. Number 5, we have the Phoenix Suns. Now, the Suns are the 2 seed in the West. They're 30-14. They went 3-1 this past week. They beat the Lakers, Heat, and Raptors, and they lost to the Magic. The thing with this week's power rankings is pretty much every team either went undefeated or lost one game. So,
yeah,
they were just the lowest on this list for me.
Yeah. My number 5, I got Milwaukee. They have climbed their way out of a hole they dug themselves into. They are into the 3 seed and definitely going to be challenging for the 1 or 2. It was looking like they were going to be the 3 seed by a pretty wide margin, between 2 and the 3, I should say. But they've really clawed their way back into that conversation for a higher seed. They've won 8 out of their last 10. They're a completely different team with Drew Holiday. They beat the shit out of a pretty depleted Pacers team, but still like a good Pacers team. And they did it without Giannis. On Monday, they beat the Spurs, they beat the Celtics, and then they lost to the Celtics yesterday. So they were 3-1. Overall, very good week for them, though. And Giannis is kind of a dark horse for MVP at this point. So everything's coming up Milwaukee, baby.
They actually did not make my list. My number 4 is the Brooklyn Nets. They were another one of the teams, the only other team on my list that lost a game. They beat the Wizards, the Blazers, and the Pistons. They lost to the Jazz. So that's a pretty good loss, I'd say. But no, we'll talk about this a little bit later. I have written down. But James Harden playing out of his mind on the Nets. Yeah. He's been insane. So, they've been playing pretty well. And Blake Griffin had a good game.
Yeah, he did. He balled out. Kinda. He played pretty well. He didn't really ball out. Is that it?
Yeah, that's it.
All right, my number 4, I got the Suns. They're 7-3 over their last 10, so not absolutely spectacular, but they're still the 2nd seed in the best conference. They've got some nice wins over the last week. They beat the Lakers without LeBron, but still the Lakers.
Or Anthony Davis.
Or Anthony Davis, yeah. They lost by 1 to the Magic, which was a little weird. And then they beat the Raptors yesterday in Gary Trent Jr.'s first game as a Raptor. So they went 3-1 this week. They were nice. They didn't make any big trade deadline moves. So it looks like they're pretty comfy. And yeah, I got them 4.
My number 3 is the Los Angeles Clippers. They went undefeated this week. They went 4-0. They are the 3 seed in the West, and they beat the Hornets, the Hawks, and the Spurs twice. So all around pretty solid wins. I'm not sure about the Spurs standings, but I know the Hornets and Hawks are both in the playoffs. So some pretty good wins. The whole team's been playing well.
Seed.
Spurs are the 8th seed. Okay, yeah. So 3 playoff teams, and they did make a trade deadline move that we'll get into later.
Yes. My number 3 is the Nets. They are 8-2 over their last 10. They're a game and a half back from the 1st seed in the East. They do have 15. I nearly put them above the Sixers, but they do have, they're a game and a half back. It's not just a half game or a game. It's a little more than that. They got some spacing between them and the Sixers. KD's been out. Kyrie has been out because his fiance had a baby, so congratulations to the Irving family. And the Nets still looked like the Nets. They're still good. Shout out to Alize Johnson, one of my favorite Pacers over the last couple of years. He never really got his fair shot in the blue and gold, but I'm glad that the Nets gave him a chance because he balled out. He had like 23 and 15. That's like the exact thing that the Pacers need this year is good rebounding, and we let good rebounding walk in free agency. So gotta love that. But Alize is still one of my favorite players. I still follow him on Instagram, even though he's not a Pacer anymore. He's definitely going to be getting more than another 10-day contract, baby.
And
so always good to see.
Alize, if you're watching this right now and want to come in for an interview,
absolutely.
He's not watching it, but like we might. I mean, I'm sure if we reach out to him, he maybe might say yes. I don't know.
Yeah. And I think I should say. Do the Nets feel a little different than some of the other like super teams? Because like I really don't hate anybody on the Nets. Like I don't like Kevin Durant, but I don't hate him. Kyrie's like one of my favorite players now. James Harden's okay. I mean Blake's kind of a douche, but like Alize, like they definitely have a lot more redeeming qualities than like the Warriors did. Maybe just because Kevin Durant was such a black hole of negativity to the media, and he hasn't really been that this year. But
well, it's also, they don't exactly, I know we've talked about this before and we have differing opinions, but at least right now, they don't feel like a super team because they haven't had all three of them really playing on the court at the same time.
Well, that's true. It's been like Kyrie and Harden, which still feels like world beaters, but yeah. No, that's a good point. They haven't really been, we haven't seen the Nets at their absolute full strength in a couple weeks.
Yeah.
All right, what's your number 2?
My number 2 is the Utah Jazz. They are 33-11, the 1 seed in the West, best record in the league. They're up on the Sixers by like I think a game and a half or 2 games or something. They beat the Bulls, Nets, and the Grizzlies this week. So all around pretty solid wins. But as we have noted in previous weeks, they have been slipping a little bit. They're not running away with the 1 seed. Definitely. So, but this week they did fine. They've been playing pretty well.
Yeah. My number 2, I got the Sixers. The Sixers are 9-1 over the last 10. They've been super impressive without Embiid. This week, they beat the Warriors, they beat the Lakers, they beat the Knicks. Yeah, they beat the Knicks by 1 in overtime, and they beat the shit out of the Kings. So overall, they went 4-0 this week. Very good. They are still like a game and a half back from the Jazz, so I couldn't put them above quite yet. But I do think they'll probably be the number 1 if they continue on the same trajectory next week.
Yeah, I have the Sixers at number 1, so I'm assuming we just have them flipped. But yeah, you covered everything. They've been the thing for me with them is they've been super impressive considering they don't have Embiid, and they've still been just on a roll.
That's a good point. Yeah. No, that's definitely fair. I can't fault you for that.
Oh.
My number 1's the Jazz. I mean, they've been my number 1 for weeks and weeks now. They have shown a little bit of slowing down signs, but nothing super concerning. Like they're still beating teams like the Nets, who I don't think the Nets had anybody that. I think that was
the
Timothy
Jeff Green game.
That was the Alize Johnson game. Oh, okay. So yeah. So that he was like their best player that night. Blake, James, Kyrie, and Katie all sat. So, but still, the Grizzlies are a solid team. The Bulls are pretty solid, and they made both of those teams they made the Bulls look like chumps. The Grizzlies kept it close.
Yeah,
sorry.
It's okay, man. Nothing personal. I understand.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's it for our power rankings. Let's get on to more exciting things. First of all, I kind of wanted to talk about this. I don't know if you have any opinions about this, but the Raptors are having some locker room issues. Earlier in the week, Pascal Siakam got fined for a very intense altercation with Nick Nurse. There's a bunch of rumors about Kyle Lowry being traded. He threw up the peace sign to the cameras or whatever. It all looked like he was going to leave, and then he didn't. But these locker room things are still happening. So, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, I think the Raptors are bad. They're the 11th seed in the East. They're 18-27. I mean, they are a solid 5.5 game or 3.5 games out from the playoffs. So they are really like solidly out of it. And this is a team that I think, you kind of hear people talking about aspects like this in sports that don't really go through, or that people don't really talk about. But like when you have a young team like this that's done basically nothing but win for the entirety of their careers, it is kind of valuable to learn how to lose. And like Pascal Siakam doesn't know how to lose. Fred VanVleet doesn't know how to lose. Like none of these, except for Kyle Lowry, and even Kyle Lowry's been on good teams for the last decade in Toronto. So, like you look at those things, and you're like, none of these guys have really experienced a bad season like this before. Like I saw a TikTok this week, and it was talking about like the NBA players with the highest winning percentage, and Pascal Siakam is like top 3 with like 70% winning percentage. So it's it's tough when you're a team that's never really experienced any adversity in the regular season, at least, to lose like this. And I think everybody's just kind of annoyed.
Do you think them having to play in Tampa has anything to do with that?
I don't think it helps.
That's fair.
Like I think that when a lot of these guys, their families are probably with them in Tampa, but like you're not used to the city. You kind of like you're probably bubbled up a lot because of Florida's lax COVID restrictions, and I would assume that the NBA is trying to keep it pretty tight down there as much as they can. It does suck to live in a city that you aren't really familiar with for a whole year. It's completely different weather. Even if it is nicer, it can be an adjustment for people, especially people that have been in fucking Toronto for, like, it's talk about polar opposite places.
You remember when Paul George blamed a bad shooting percentage on weather?
Yeah, I do. He's thought of pretty much every excuse. So yeah, I don't know. I'm not super worried about like Nick Nurse's. Like I don't think they're gonna fire Nick Nurse or anything, and I don't think that maybe they let Kyle Lowry walk or do a sign and trade. But I don't think that. I don't know. I think that maybe Giannis re-signing might have something to do with it, because it seemed like the Raptors thought they were going to get him, and now they're kind of scrambling to figure out what to do. Like, the championship core is kind of falling apart. I don't know. It seems... What do you think about it? Because I guess that's really all I have to say.
I mean, I don't think it's as big of a problem, just because, like, obviously I don't know how heated the altercation between Siakam and Nick Nurse got, but... it happens when you're competitive, and like you said, and they're losing for the first time, stuff like this is going to happen. Especially, Nick Nurse probably isn't used to losing a whole lot either. He was either under Dwayne Casey or coaching a championship team. So,
yeah,
it's pretty new for everyone. The Kyle Lowry stuff too, I think he probably saw the rumors and was like, if I do get traded, I want to be traded here or here. And the Raptors were probably like, yeah, we can see if there's a trade coming. So he might have thought he was getting traded, but
yeah,
the Lakers just didn't want to give up Talen Horton-Tucker, so he stayed in Toronto.
Jesus Christ. Yeah,
but
yeah,
I don't think it's that big. I guess the only other thing I have to say is people are blowing the Pascal Siakam thing way, way, way out of proportion. Yeah, he cussed out his coach. That's obviously bad, but there are plenty of locker room things that happen that don't get out to the media that are just as bad or worse. Like, I'm positive of it. I'm positive that teams have, gotten in fights. Players get annoyed with their coaches all the time. It happens. It happens at every level. It's like once a year choked down his coach.
Yeah, exactly. And, that's not a normal thing. But, getting in arguments with your coaches is. And...
Yeah.
I'm not that worried. Tom Izzo goes... Yeah, I know he's a college coach, but it's a similar thing where, Tom Izzo goes viral once a year because he gets a little too intense with one of his players. And, that goes viral because that's not really something you see a lot. People are usually able to keep it pretty tight.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't really... obviously, I heard it was a personal attack, but I don't really know what constitutes a personal attack. So
what if that's a very
broad
suck
thing.
In bed, Nick Nurse? You think he said that?
Just hitting his deepest insecurities.
Yeah.
Obviously, I would guess Pascal Siakam does not seem like that kind of dude either. So I don't even know what he would say. But I don't know. That's all I got for this.
That's fair. I don't think it's too big of a deal. I think we're on the same page on that.
No.
Another thing, lots of injuries this week. T.J. Warren confirmed out for the entire season, which does not help the Pacers' playoff run right now.
Does not.
Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is out for an extended period of time with a foot injury.
I didn't even see that. What the fuck?
Yeah.
Damn it.
It was on Legal Alerts. It was earlier in the week, though, before the large spur of news. But yeah, I mean, the Thunder, I'm assuming, are trying to tank, so it's not the end of the world, but it still sucks for him, obviously. LaMelo Ball is out for the season, so not great. Hornets are the 4 seed, though, so they're holding their own. But, I mean, that one obviously sucks. It sucks to see a young player go out. And then LeBron James is out for at least a month with a high ankle sprain.
Yes.
Which is
And
important.
the Lakers are feeling it.
Absolutely terrible.
Yeah.
Which begs the question, because LeBron's now out for a month, Embiid's missed a lot of time. Is James Harden the MVP right now?
I don't think it's crazy to say that, honestly.
The Nets are what, 17-3 since he got traded there?
Yeah, they're ridiculously good. He's playing the best all-around basketball of his career. I think at this point, it's him and Jokic really at the front of the pack. As much as I'd like to say Embiid's in the conversation, I just don't think he can be with being out this long.
Mm-hmm. Which sucks because he's popping off, and I love him. But
yeah, he was the MVP until like the second he got hurt.
Yeah.
Especially with James Harden and Jokic missing basically 0 time. Sometimes 2 or 3 weeks being out with injury can be the difference in an MVP conversation.
Yeah.
So, I think I still do have Jokic slightly ahead of him because he's playing in a tougher conference. He's by far the best player on his team. He's a game and a half out from being a top 4 seed in the West. And, James Harden has gotten to play with Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant a little bit, and he's going to be playing with both of those guys again very soon. So I don't when you're on a team as stacked as that, it's hard to get MVP votes. Like we were talking about Kevin Durant as the NBA MVP for the first month of the season. So
yeah,
I think it's going to be hard for James, even if it's not really fair because of how many games he's won by himself or with just Kyrie. I think it is going to be hard for him to win it with such a stacked team around him.
That's definitely fair. I
do think at this moment it's his award to lose.
I agree. I think at this point he is the front runner, at least for now. Just because obviously injuries, and with Jokic, he is the 5 seed, which even though I think the 5 seed in the West is still like the 3 or 4 seed in the East, but regardless,
it's the 4.
Yeah, regardless, the seeding does matter in something like the MVP race, especially when it's this tight.
Yeah,
because
definitely.
I do think it's pretty tight. So.
I do think there's a very good shot the Nuggets finish top 3 though. Like they're 27-8. They're 2.5 games out from the 3 seed right now. Mm-hmm. They've been winning a lot. Though they might be in my power rankings next week, honestly, if they keep winning like this. But if they finish with the top 3 seed and the Nets are the 2, I think it's very likely that they're the 2 or the 3 seed. I think that there's that will be taken into account.
Yeah, I agree. All right, now to get on to player movement time, because Lamarcus Aldridge was bought out. Not the trade corner just yet, because Lamarcus Aldridge was bought out by the Spurs, and he hasn't signed anywhere yet. But I think the Heat are front runners, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, the Heat are. It looks like the Heat are front runners to sign him, and he's also talking with like the Celtics and the Lakers, I think, and the Clippers.
And Drummond was bought out, and the Celtics are front runners for that.
Yes.
And honestly, I don't want the Celtics to get him just because of how shitty their trade deadline was.
Yeah, that would be annoying if they were like, it was Danny's plan all along to miss on everybody at the deadline and then.
It was
Drummond.
Danny's plan all along to almost trade for a bunch of people and then end up with Evan Fournier. It was his mastermind plan.
Yeah.
Anyway, now we're at the... do you have anything else to say?
No.
Now we're at the moment we've all been waiting for, the trade corner.
Final trade corner.
Yes, the final trade corner of the season. Until the off season. at least.
Yeah, until the offseason. Then we can get back into it.
Mm-hmm.
So only a couple more months until we get to bring back this segment.
Yes. Some might say the podcast favorite segment.
Yes, it's definitely my favorite.
First up, I don't have these written down in order, so I'm just going to do them based on, like, the order I have them written from League Alerts. So,
Okay.
The Boston Celtics trade Daniel Tice, their best center, I might add, to the Chicago Bulls for Mo Wagner, who was traded to the Bulls for Troy Brown Jr. and someone else. I forget. Daniel Gafford, that's who. So, what are your thoughts on this trade?
Well, this trade makes a lot more sense when we get to the biggest move of the trade deadline. But I like this move. I like Daniel Tice as a backup center. I think he's pretty nice. Yeah, he should be a solid second unit guy for the Bulls. And I like Wagner to the Celtics. He's a little bigger. I think he plays more 4 than 5, but I think he can play 5. He's not great, and I don't even really think he's an upgrade over Tice, but he's a little bigger on the interior, so that's nice.
I guess it does help. Next up, Victor Oladipo to the Heat for Avery Bradley, Kelly Olynyk, and a pick swap.
Pat Riley works his magic again. I made a video about this, and I was like, yeah, I don't think the Heat should trade for Oladipo at the trade deadline because it'll probably take, like, Kendrick Nunn, a first-round pick, and probably a second-round pick, and it didn't even take that. It took, like, basically nothing to get Oladipo because the Rockets were stupid about it. There's really no other way for me to say that. They were just dumb. They waited way too long, and then they were like, fuck, we got to get literally anything we can. So
yeah. And for the Rockets, this means that from the James Harden trade, obviously they got a lot of picks, but a lot of them are going to be either bad picks or pick swaps. And then the players they got being Karis LeVert and Jarrett Allen, they turned into a second-round pick for Jarrett Allen, and then Avery Bradley and Kelly Olynyk and a pick swap for Karis LeVert.
Yeah, it's basically garbage.
Yeah, they messed up. I think it's safe to say. Honestly, I think obviously the picks are nice, but if KD, Kyrie, and Harden all re-sign to Brooklyn, even if the picks go until 2025, they might as well just be, mid first round picks. So, all things considered, the Rockets are bad, and I'm sorry to their fans that have to sit through this, and I'm sorry for the players that have to sit through this because they're gonna suck.
Yeah, they're gonna be so bad.
Next up, we got Aaron Gordon to the Nuggets for Gary Harris, R.J. Hampton, and a first-round pick.
This was probably my favorite move the Magic made. I think this is the best one for both teams because you're obviously getting good value for Aaron Gordon. Like, Gary Harris is solid. R.J. Hampton is a really nice prospect. He's still pretty raw as a player, but he could be a really good guard in a couple years. And then you get a decent possible pick. And then you're giving up Aaron Gordon, who's like, when you're rebuilding, it's kind of shitty to have a guy that's making $17 million on the books that's not that great. And they got it off. Like, they got Aaron Gordon off that deal.
And he did request a trade, so he didn't even want to be there either.
Yeah. And for the Nuggets, they fill a need at power forward. And even though Aaron Gordon, like I just said, he's not that great, he is better than whoever they were starting at power forward.
Was it Paul Millsap? He is
pretty decent. Who was it?
I said, was it Paul Millsap that started?
Oh, maybe it was Paul Millsap. Well, maybe they start Aaron Gordon at small forward. I don't really know what they're going to do. But it's definitely an upgrade for them. And they gave up, I was thinking that they were probably going to have to give up, Bol maybe in a trade. And they didn't even have to give up Bol. So that was good. That was a good move for both teams, I think.
I agree. I really like the Aaron Gordon fit, even if it's, even if he's taking a lesser role, which again, I don't think he's amazing, but he's definitely a solid player. And having, obviously he's become a pretty decent shooter, but his main attribute that people focus on is his dunking ability. And if you have Jokic throwing him lobs, I feel like that could be kind of fun.
Yeah, definitely.
Next up, Norman Powell to Portland for Gary Trent and Rodney Hood.
That was another really good move, I think.
I agree. Norman Powell he's been averaging 20 a game this season, which I think everyone on the Raptors, like all their starters are like splitting their points and they're all averaging like 20 a game, but he is a very efficient 20 a game, I guess. And giving like obviously Gary Trent's pretty good, Rodney Hood is pretty good, but I think Norman Powell is just an overall upgrade. And I think this is one of those trades where like it applies to a lot of trades, but not every single trade where it's like the team that gets the best player typically wins, and I think that definitely applies here.
Yeah, I agree. It doesn't matter like if you give up a couple decent rotation guys, if you get a really good player like Norman Powell back, it's definitely worth it. Yeah. And I think I said this in the chat. I think they've got like probably the best 3-guard rotation in the West now.
Is Powell a guard? I always thought he played the wing.
He's kind of a combo, honestly. I think maybe he is listed at small forward and kind of plays that wing role, but he's kind of undersized for that. Yeah, he's 6'4", so I think of him a little more as a guard. But yeah, he is a small forward.
Okay, cool. But yeah, I mean, either way, it's a lot of scoring from just from C.J. Dame and Norman Powell.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
And I mean, in his first game, he put up 22 on like 60% or something crazy.
Yeah, shooting guard / small forward. That's what he's listed as.
Okay. Guard, wing, whatever.
Yeah.
Next, actually, I kind of want to talk about the Rockets side of things here because, like, obviously, we've been talking about how they're not playing great. And do you think they're still trying to make a push for the playoffs, or do you think they're just...
No way.
Because, I mean, they're only a few games back from the playoffs, theoretically, right? If they sort of pick things up. I mean, because right now in the East, you can be the 12 seed and you're like, 4 games back?
Wait, the Rockets?
Sorry, the Raptors.
Oh, I mean, I do think they're still thinking playoffs, but I would not say that they are really in the conversation right now. They're 3.5 games back from the 8th seed.
Right. So it's obviously still possible. I don't know where their mind is at because this, I mean, obviously you drop a 20-point per game score, but they're adding a bunch of bench depth. But it's kind of confusing, though, because I remember seeing, like, they traded away, like, 4 guys for just second-round picks, and I thought, they're going to make a Kyle Lowry trade or something. That didn't happen. Now they just have a bunch of roster space, so I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I mean, I think they're also going to try to look to develop Gary Trent a little more because he's 22, and this is his 3rd season. So, I mean, I don't think that they are. I think they made that move in mind with let's develop some younger talent. We got Norm, but we kind of know what his ceiling is at this point. Gary Trent can maybe develop into something better in a couple years. So
yeah,
maybe that was what it is.
Next up, we're going to go over some smaller ones real quick just to get those done, and then we'll get to the big bazinga at the end because...
The big bazinga,
yeah. Next up, Philadelphia 76ers get George Hill in exchange for Tony Bradley, Terrence Ferguson, and 2 second-round picks.
Which on paper feels like a lot for George Hill, but really you get a good backup guard for guys who are like barely cracking the rotation and 2 picks.
Yeah.
I like that move for both teams. Obviously, the Thunder are trying to get as many picks as they possibly can. They're stacking them up. And they definitely get worse by trading George Hill, so they'll get a good chance at a high pick this year.
Yeah, I agree. I really like the George Hill and Philly fit because I feel like since 2018 and the finals, people really don't talk, I guess people didn't talk about him before that.
When he missed 1 free throw?
Yeah, well, I mean, again, I guess people don't really talk about George Hill on the regular, but especially now, I feel like he's a pretty underrated bench piece. He can be very solid.
Definitely.
Next up, and this is one that we kind of covered already, but the Boston Celtics get Evan Fournier for 2 second-round picks.
And Jeff Teague.
Who they waived,
Don't
right?
forget about who immediately got waived.
Yeah, so I didn't even know Jeff Teague was part of that. I thought he was in
Yeah,
Atlanta.
I didn't either until this morning.
Wait, I thought Jeff Teague...
No, he signed with Boston.
Oh, did he? Okay. See, I just haven't been following Jeff Teague's career, I guess.
Evan Fournier was the big deadline move. Let's give a round of applause to Danny Ainge for that one. Really great move there. And Evan Fournier isn't even bad, but when you're talking the whole trade deadline about how you're going to go out and get Vooch,
you're going to get Vooch or John
even
Collins or Aaron Gordon, yeah.
And you go out and you get like a solid wing, like
we predict. I don't know if we said it on the podcast. I think Noah predicted, and he was like, the Boston Celtics are just gonna Danny Ainge when he needs to trade for a big, and there's like nothing, and Danny Ainge when he gets to trade for a scoring wing, and it's like,
yeah, exactly.
I don't get it, man.
Or like Jeremy Grant was the other one we were throwing around. They couldn't even get him. They went out and they got. And this isn't even to shit on Evan Fournier. He's fine, but like he's averaging 20 a game, but he is not what the Celtics need at all. Like at all. It's not even.
This is why I hope they don't get Drummond. I don't think they deserve this satisfaction after all the bullshit they've pulled this season.
Yeah. No.
But anyway, next up. Rondo for Lou Will. The Hawks trade Rondo to the Clippers. They get back Lou Williams. What do you think?
I would say that this was probably the second most underrated move at the deadline.
I was actually going to say that. I was going to say I think this is a very good move that doesn't get talked about a lot. But yeah, what do you think about it? Because
I mean, for the Hawks, it's kind of whatever. Like they had a. Aditya? Oh, shit.
What?
Can you hear me?
You were... Wait, can you hear me?
Yeah.
I can.
Can you hear me?
Wait. Yeah, are we good?
Okay, some weird technical difficulties.
Things are going south. Give us a second here. Are we good now?
Hey, you were kind of cutting in and out a lot.
Oh, my bad.
I couldn't tell if you just weren't talking or you were talking, and I just
is it fixed now? You.
Yeah, I think so.
Right.
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, what were you saying?
I was just saying for the Hawks, it's kind of whatever. Like I think they got like a second round pick or something, and Lou, who's a solid guard off the bench at this point, like he's 34. He's putting up decently. He's averaging 20 minutes a game. He's putting up like 12 and 4 on decent efficiency, like about as efficient as he's ever been. So that's fine. And the Clippers get their point guard, which I think is underrated. Rondo's still a good defender. He's still a good facilitator. And I think this definitely makes them better because Lou was not really contributing a ton at this point. Like, 12 and 4 on okay efficiency is not as good as having a point guard who can defend the 1 through the 3 and can facilitate in the playoffs.
Yeah, that's a pretty big point I was going to make, actually, is that playoff Rondo can maybe help shift the scales a little bit with playoff P.
Yeah.
Definitely. Especially after their last playoffs, that was kind of embarrassing for them, so I think they needed it.
Yeah, they had to make a move, and they did do it.
Yeah.
And I think I think Rondo and Ibaka is probably better for the way the Clippers want to play basketball than this year's Lou Williams and Montrezl Harrell. Like, honestly, I don't think that's a crazy thing to say.
I would definitely agree.
Like, it's two way less ball-dominant players. Like, Rondo is kind of ball-dominant because he's a point guard, but he's not going to shoot it like Lou is. And then it gives them way better defense at both of those positions. And when you have Paul George and Kawhi Leonard, you're going to be a defensive-oriented team. And Lou Williams and Montrezl Harrell are both pretty much net negatives consistently on defense, whereas you have Rajon Rondo, who is an underrated defender, and Serge Ibaka, who, even though he's a little older, he's still one of the best defensive centers in the game. Mm-hmm. So, honestly, I think that this is I think they're in better shape right now as just a full team than they were last year. And then you got Nick Batum and Luke Kennard, who kind of fill the shooting roles. They can kind of create their own offense. Like, they don't. It's not like they completely lost guys who can make offense off the bench when they lost Lou. Like, they still got some guys.
Bro, it's crazy to hear that Nick Batum is being a productive NBA player right now. That's crazy.
Yeah.
But no, I think we can both. I think we're both on the same page with this. But also, like, when the Clippers first got Ibaka, I think we both agreed that Ibaka is a better player than Montrez. Just off the fact that
at least defensively,
and I mean, even on offense, he spreads the floor better, and you're not exactly missing out on too much.
Yeah.
So
definitely.
Yeah. And then again, Rondo is just a better overall defender. He won't shoot as much, but I don't think you're missing too much with that.
Yeah, definitely.
Next up, Pelicans trade J.J. Redick to the Mavs. This was part of a 3-team trade with the Spurs or something. I don't remember exactly what each team got because it wasn't on the one post that I looked at. But J.J. Redick to the Mavs, which I actually am a big fan of as well.
This was, in my opinion, the most underrated move at the deadline. Because the Mavericks, who are, let me just look up the offensive ranking, but I think they are once again like a top 3 or 5 offense. I know they're averaging like 113 points a game, which is crazy. I mean, they don't play a lick of defense, so it doesn't really matter, but they are the this one has wins ranked really high. I just want to see like overall as a team. Okay. This one, NBA.com ranks them as the 10th overall defense. So,
wait, defense?
I mean,
or
not
offense?
great. Or offense.
Okay.
That's definitely not bad. This is general advanced. What the fuck? They're a top 10 offense. They're averaging 113 points a game. I don't need a ton of stats to back that up.
Yeah.
They are the. This one has them at 18, so really everybody has them in a different place, but they're averaging a lot of points, so whatever.
Yeah, they had, actually Kristaps had a pretty good game pretty recently, right?
Yeah.
But
last night he was pretty good.
Yeah, last night.
Didn't really matter because the defensive player of the year was all over him, but, you know.
Who was on him?
Miles Turner.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But I remember I saw a comment on it because I think Legal Alerts posted the stat line or something, and there's a comment that was like, yeah, Porzingis will have about one of these games every single month. It's kind of infuriating. And then there was a reply to that. I was like, yeah, because he kind of only plays about one game every single month.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, like he's awesome when he plays, but he doesn't play. Which kind of sucks because, I mean, I guess they didn't really give up anything for that trade. Right, but like when their whole plan was to have a Porzingis as a second star next to Doncic, and it just kind of isn't happening. But they need some floor spacers though, because they got like Luka, Tim Hardaway, who's a solid shooter, but then it's like Dorian Finney-Smith, Maxi Kleber, like they needed some spacing.
And JJ Redick goes to a team that knows how to use JJ Redick. Like He had a heel procedure done, which is why I think the compensation was so bad, honestly, because hasn't played in a good amount of games. It's been a while. He's 36. He has not played since March 3rd, so it's been a couple weeks. It's been about 3 weeks now. He's only averaging like 8 points a game, but he's still shooting 36% from 3. That is very useful. Surrounding a guy like Luka with shooters is a good idea.
Here's the thing, too, is that 36% from 3 and the 8 points per game are like career lows for him because the Pelicans don't use him right. Like, JJ Redick could very easily be like a 15-point per game scorer on 40. Like, he was an 18-point per game scorer on like 43% from 3 in Philly 2 years ago. Like, he can be very good. It's just the Pelicans haven't been using him right.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely a good move for them. They get some floor spacing, and I think they're going to be able to re-sign him this year. I don't think that's crazy. This is kind of a test run of JJ Redick at this point in his career, and to see what Mark Cuban wants to give him. And I like the steal.
I do too. And I'm assuming, again, I don't know exactly what the Mavs gave up, but I can't assume they gave up a huge package or whatever. It's probably like a second-round pick or something.
Yeah.
Anyway, the next up, and I think this is the last like small trade, and it's JaVale McGee to Denver for 2 second-round picks, which is pretty good. I like it.
Yeah.
I think Denver, because they didn't give up any players in this trade, I don't think, unless I read it wrong. But just getting some bench depth is always useful, especially when, like, no offense, but Michael Porter Jr. is kind of an insane liability on defense. So,
for sure.
And JaVale McGee is an okay defender, which can be useful, at least, because obviously I don't think he's going to go out there and play 30 minutes a game, but he can go out there and provide some useful rim protection for 20, 25 minutes, and I think that's really all they need him to do.
Yeah, I like this move. They get some more depth at the backup rotation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like this move. And JaVale's been on
he's back on the Nuggets. He played
3
for
of
them
the last
earlier,
5 champions. He was on the Lakers and then 2 Warriors teams, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, now he's gonna just bring one home for the Nuggets.
Yeah, hell yeah.
And now, for the moment of truth. The Bulls trade Wendell Carter and Otto Porter for Nick Vucevic and Al-Farouq Aminu. I'm standing up for this one.
Don't forget the 2 first-round picks that the Bulls also traded.
I don't care, dude. I don't care about those. I'm so happy. I love this trade, dude. It's awesome. Because here's I like Wendell Carter, right? He's a good player, good locker room guy from what I've seen in reports and whatever. No one seems to hate him or have any problems with him. But I don't think he's ever going to be like Vooch level. I don't think the Bulls are going to be in a position in any draft to draft someone on Vooch level or that will become of that level. And it's awesome. And now he got a second all-star to play next to Zach LaVine. I thought if he traded for Vooch, he'd have to at least give up like Lauri Markkanen or Kobe White or something more significant. And I'm just happy we didn't have to.
Yeah, I want to talk about how much I hate this move from the Magic perspective. You should have gotten way fucking more for Nikola Vucevic. There is no reason for you to get Otto Porter and Wendell Carter Jr. back.
I do want to say, both of them are very solid players. They're just not Vooch level.
They are, but they're not Vooch. I get the 2 first-round picks the Bulls are gambling here because the Bulls might not be that great still with Vucevic. But you've still got, it's not like Vooch is going to be a free agent. He's on a team-friendly deal. He's only making $24 and $22 million the next 2 years. You got him locked down until the summer of 2023 when he's 32 years old, edge of his prime. And it's just, I don't know. It seems like a stupid move from the Magic. You could have gotten way, way more for him.
Well, here's the thing, too.
I would have pushed for Lauri Markkanen or Kobe White, and maybe both of them, honestly.
I don't think I wouldn't have given up both if I was the Bulls. Granted, I'm not the Bulls, but if I was, I wouldn't have.
I would have given up Wendell, Otto Porter, and Lauri Markkanen for Vooch easily.
No, but I wouldn't have given up both Kobe White and Lauri is the point I'm trying to make.
Yeah.
But the one thing I'm thinking about is they took this package, which is okay, right? It's not amazing, it's not bad. But, I mean, there was reports of a lot of other teams being interested. So then I got to ask, what were those teams, what were the Celtics offering that was worse? You know what I mean? It's
yeah, definitely.
Because, I mean, they just got Evan Fournier for 2 second-round picks, but it's if they didn't have a package better than that, obviously they're not going to include Tatum or Brown, but, you couldn't think of anything better than what they just accepted. You know what I mean? Because I'm sure there was more than just the Celtics and Bulls going after Vooch. So it's you got to think what did those other teams even consider offering?
Yeah, the Celtics must have given them garbage for Vooch.
That's what I'm thinking. Yeah. Speaking of Celtics, I'll get back to the Vooch thing in a minute, but. Very disappointed that our Kemba Walker for Lonzo Ball and Steven Adams trade didn't come to fruition. I was really hoping for that one.
Yeah, I thought it was weird. I thought Lonzo was gone.
Yeah,
for sure.
I think a lot of people did. But Lonzo's staying, which I don't think the Pelicans are mad at, honestly. He's been pretty solid this year.
Yeah.
So, it's not the end of the world. But I'm definitely surprised that he wasn't moved because I thought he would be. But I would have loved to see one of our trades happen, But, no, the Vooch trade, I think, obviously this doesn't make the Bulls complete, championship contenders. They're not going to be up there with KD, Kyrie, and Harden, but they'll definitely be able to make a playoff push, I think, now, which I'm happy with. I'll take it.
Yeah, definitely.
So, yeah. Is there anything else to add?
That's all I got.
All right, cool. Remember to like the video, subscribe if you want to see more content from us. We upload every Sunday. We have all of our socials and the podcast Twitter, podcast email, all that stuff's in the description as well. Aiden's football articles there, our personal channels are there. So check all that stuff out. If you want to comment, tell us why we're wrong, or tell us what trades you wanted to see happen. And yeah, thanks for watching.
Yeah. Bye.